Dylan and Dylan Show presented by Tunnel Vision Sports. We are back again here on a special Thursday, September 9th edition of the Dylan and Dylan Show. Dylan Jesperson here again with my main man, colleague, co-host, all of the above, Dylan Holtz. Dylan, how are you doing today, my man?
Doing fantastic. Could not be doing any better, I think. I'm really excited for the show today. I think we have a really good one. The last few weeks I haven't had really great this day in sports topics to talk about, but we're coming up on a weekend. This weekend is September 11th, and it's the 20-year anniversary of 9/11, the terrible terrorist attack that happened 20 years ago. That's one of my kind of like vaguest, like earliest memories of my life. But I can't really remember the things that happened around it, maybe in the sports world. So I've kind of been looking back at that as we're getting close to that 20-year anniversary. And this morning I watched President Bush's first pitch of the Yankees Diamondbacks game in the World Series that year. And it was really cool to see how the sports world, like specifically New York with the Yankees being in the World Series, just how it brought everyone together in just such a time of tragedy. It was really cool as we're only a few days away from that sad anniversary going on 20 years. But yeah, I thought it was really cool seeing President Bush interacting with both the Yankees and the Diamondbacks, and the crowd is really neat, and just seeing how everybody rallied around sport. It's why we love it and why we watch it and everything else. It was great. Excited for a great show.
Some great memories surrounding that too. The Mike Piazza home run is something that comes to mind right off the bat. Last week I had to reminisce on some pain that I and many of my Michigan fans felt, so I have to share the pain with my Spartan friends this week. 12 years ago this weekend, my future school, Central Michigan, would go into East Lansing, upset Michigan State on a last-second field goal. It was 2009. I think it was September 12th officially. So one of my favorite upsets of all time for obvious reasons, but I had to share the pain a little bit because we brought up the very painful reminder of the App State game last week. But quick reminder to follow us, Tunnel Vision Sports, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as the Dylan Show on YouTube. That way you'll never miss an episode once they come out. Dylan's Murray State Racers are traveling to Cincinnati this week to take on the 7th-ranked Bearcats in some FCS, FBS play this weekend. We were very fortunate to be able to sit down with Preston Rice, starting quarterback for Murray State and reigning OVC Offensive Player of the Week, as his team gets ready for a big matchup on Saturday. Here is that interview right now.
Howdy, folks. This is Dylan Holt back for another special pigskin interview. That's what I'm going to call it. I just decided to hear right on the fly. A few weeks ago, whatever it was, I don't know. Time isn't real. I've talked about that before. We talked to Trey Hornbuckle, who played defensive line at Duke. I was high school teammates with him. It was a great conversation. I'm really excited to welcome another guy who I've become friends with in the past few years. Plays at a different level of football, but plays just as well as Trey, if not better. This guy is an awesome player. He's done a lot of really great things in his career at Murray State University. He plays quarterback for my alma mater, plays quarterback for my current grad school, the Murray State Racer quarterback, Preston Rice. How you doing, Preston?
Hey, fellas, it's good to be on here.
It's great to have you. I'm really excited to talk some pigskin, like I said. And you've got a big game coming up this weekend, but you also had a big game last week. You guys opened up the season against Mississippi Valley State, a school that people probably know for a different Rice that played football there. He's pretty good, ended up in San Francisco. You had a huge performance. You ended up winning OVC Player of the Week, scoring 4 rushing touchdowns, which maybe someone listening to this, they're like, quarterback, 4 rushing touchdowns. Whoa, maybe Tim Tebow. That doesn't happen much anymore. Was that kind of the game plan, or was that an improvisation? What was kind of the mindset there with 4 rushing touchdowns rather than maybe 4 passing?
Well, our offense, we're pretty based around running the football, kind of ground and pound, let the defense do work. But with our reads and stuff like that, the quarterback's a big part of the run game. So, I kept a couple off, some reads off the DN, and then a couple times, the running backs had big runs, or we hit a couple big pass plays and got us close and couldn't quite get it in until 3rd or 4th down, and then end up just, calling my name and then pounded in. So it was a mixture of the game plan. It's just kind of who we are, though.
Oh, for sure. I know Racer fans like myself, we really got used to that kind of identity from this team last spring when you guys played that special spring season that I don't think anyone will ever forget, because it was something like we've never seen, because we got spring football. When people think of spring football, it's like a spring game, the blue and gold game or the orange and white game in Knoxville. It's not actual football that matters. And the fact that we got football that matters that was really, really good was something special. You guys went 5-2, your top 25 ranking. And in my opinion, it was really a breakout season for you, racking up over 1,000 passing yards, almost 300 rushing yards, and 15 total touchdowns. And to throw on there, that was your first season under new head coach Dean Hood, which he's not the new head coach anymore. And you had to deal with all the wacky COVID stuff. How did you guys manage to make everything just work, and when basically everything was stacked against you?
Well, we kind of felt like the year before with Coach Stewart and the old staff that we were pretty close to that point. And then we returned 10 out of 11 starters coming back. So we played a lot of football together. And, Coach Hood kind of brings a mentality of, toughness and finishing. And, I figured, we kind of figured out how to win going along. After the first one, things just kind of kept on going for us. The momentum hit us, and then we just kind of took off from there. We got to finish it. We were right there at it. Those last two games were tough, but it made us hungry for going into this season, and believe we have big things to come.
Oh, for sure. And I think a lot of people expect that. And if you look at the preseason stuff, which I know you might say you didn't, but it's hard not to see that stuff. People took notice of that success you guys had. But before we get into that, what's it like turning around so quickly? Because you just got done playing not that long ago, and here you are opening another season with not all that much rest.
Yeah, we were pretty lucky. We had a couple bumps and bruises, but we didn't really have a lot of serious injuries that were going to keep guys out for an extended amount of time. So that was kind of, one of the advantages we had coming into this season. And then, bouncing back, we got the month of June off, then came back and started working out in July. And, I think people had a bitter taste in their mouth after those last two games, and we're ready to get back at it because, we know how much we have to offer, and now we know the standard and what we expect. So we were ready to get here, and I feel like we're really mentally focused going forward.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think this last spring season with Coach Hood and you and the whole team really just making statements every Saturday, it felt like. And even the two losses at the end of the season to Austin P and Jacksonville State, they weren't bad losses. You guys were in it till the end. The Austin P was a heartbreaker. Jacksonville, there were things that just went wrong at the wrong times. And it really, you can see it with the preseason stuff at the OVC media days. People put respect on the Murray State Racers' names. People expect you guys to be able to win this conference and make noise. And people are expecting it from both the Racers and you. And that's maybe a pressure we haven't seen. Maybe we've seen on the basketball team on campus, but not really the football team. What is that? Does that pressure get to you, or are you just going out there and playing football?
I'll tell you what I tell everyone else. If preseason rankings mattered, then we wouldn't go out there and play the games. So, we're just going to play our ball and our standard. If we play racer football and what our standard is and what we expect, we believe we'll be in every game and, mostly win every game too.
Oh yeah. I fully stand behind that. And I know, I remember when I got on campus back in 2015, it wasn't the greatest brand of football maybe being played on the God's green earth, but it just every year since then the team's real. I'm not on the team, never happened, but I feel like I know a lot of you guys so well that I feel like I've been a part of the process almost. You guys have put in so much work and just got better and better and better, and I think it really started to show back in, it would have been 2018, I think, when Drew Anderson was the quarterback. He transferred in from Buffalo. I really think there was a huge leap taken that year because Drew, I don't know, just watching from afar, he almost seemed like he carried himself as like a veteran and a pro. And he ended up turning into a pro, playing for the Cardinals in the preseason. and having pro opportunities now. What was it like sharing a locker room and a quarterback room with Drew? Because I know that quarterback room was tight with you and Drew and Bognar.
Yeah. Drew, he was special, man. I mean, getting to be around him, you would see things every day that, see throws every day. You'd be like, wow, that's impressive. Just casually too. He was effortless. Just a cool, calm guy. He was great to learn from. And then, Bognar in there. He's GA at Troy. He's a great football mind. And, he's probably one of my best friends. And just talking to him every day, bouncing ideas, talking ball back and forth, that's a huge advantage that not a lot of people have. And, we had him, Drew, and Schuler Bentley, who's a GA at Coastal Carolina. So, I mean, there was a lot of football knowledge in one room. And Coach Stewart and Coach Coleman, I mean, they're quarterback gurus too. I mean, everywhere they've been, their quarterbacks put up numbers and they have that great system. And it was a lot of fun to be around, be there each and every day. And we even had Michael Hires, who is, JUCO player of the year last year, won a national championship at Northeast. It was competitive, but it was fun. We kept it light most of the time, but when it was time to work, we worked, and it was a great experience for all of us.
For sure. And I think as someone on the outside who got to talk with you and Bognar and Michael Ayers and Drew a little bit. I knew Drew a little bit, got to talk to him every once in a while. You really got the chemistry just talking to you guys because you were always all together. You're always talking football no matter what. Bognar could be sitting in an 8 a.m. class in Wilson Hall, and he's going to be talking football. And you can see it now, him being a GA at Troy. It just makes so much sense. That from the time I met Bognar, he said he was going to coach football, and it looks like he's going to do it, and I have full faith he's going to be really good at it.
He's going to be really, really good at it.
I agree.
I can't wait to see where he goes. I'm excited.
Same. I'm very excited to see what Bognar does. So we talked about the QB room, but going to a school like Murray, I think Murray's so special because it's the way I've always described it to people is it's a very small school that wants to be an SEC school because it might not have all the people in the world or anything. We're not going to sell 100,000 tickets for a football game, but people really do care. They show up most of the time, hopefully, and they want to have fun. They want to cheer on winning sports teams.
Yep.
And I think something that maybe people don't realize is we've had NFL players in Murray, Kentucky. Quincy Williams plays for the New York Jets, and then obviously you shared a campus. We shared a campus with NBA superstar John Morant. What's it like maybe just knowing that maybe when you came to Murray State, you maybe didn't expect that you would share a campus with John Morant or a locker room with Quincy Williams? Because me personally, when I signed my papers to be a student, I didn't expect that at all. So I don't know. I want your perspective on that.
My perspective, Murray, Kentucky's a cult. It's one I can go anywhere, and someone from Murray, Kentucky, if you have on the colors, they're gonna know where he is, or know someone there. It's an awesome experience. I mean, Quincy too, sharing a locker room with him, it was unique just because, kind of like Drew, you saw stuff every day that you're just like, wow. Like when I saw him play, he ran sideline to sideline better than anyone I've ever played with or saw in person play. Right there on field level, it was insane. He's a freak of nature, I'll say that. And then Jaw, I mean, Jaw's Jaw.
Yep.
yeah. I don't know. There's really not much explain on that one. Rookie of the year, and then when he was here, our basketball team was at the top, number one, we beat Marquette in the first round.
Beat Marquette, yep. And then we had to face that really good Florida State team, which we don't talk about that one, but we beat Marquette, yeah.
And I think, what do you have, 40 that game?
He had the triple-double. I think it was 28. I can't remember exactly. Just 28 points, against Marquette.
Just 28 in the triple-double.
Yeah, just 28,
He was off that night, I guess.
Yeah, off night. I'll never forget that OVC championship in Evansville, cheering on John Morant and the Racers. It was me, you, and Bognar just losing our minds. And And watching you on Saturdays, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe that. Looking back, we were just a couple years ago rooting on the Racers to win
Yeah.
OVC championships, and now you're hopefully leading the Racers to OVC championships. It's really, really neat. Moving on from Murray stuff, you're getting ready for a pretty big game this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting. It's against the top 10 team in the Cincinnati Bearcats, and maybe some smaller schools maybe don't have that kind of experience against the top 10 team, but you guys do. Some of you guys, anyways, you do. As a starter, you got to play against number 3 Georgia in Athens when Jake Fromm was the starting quarterback. What is that like? Because as just a normal human being who is not a D1 athlete, I cannot even fathom playing Georgia.
I got a pretty good story on the way to the stadium on that one. Then I'll get into that one. So we're going down the road in our charter buses, and I look out to the side, and all the Georgia fans are lined up along the sidewalk. Well, they think it's the Bulldogs showing up to the stadium. So I see hand clapping, cheering, and then about halfway through, a lot of cuss words going out their mouths. So that was just kind of my first experience of an SEC atmosphere and what it's like going and playing somewhere like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. The SEC atmospheres are something else, man. I remember first time I ever went to an SEC stadium. I think I was like 9 or 10 years old, and my dad told me,
"You're a big Balls fan, aren't you?"
I absolutely love my Tennessee Volunteers. And I went to Neyland Stadium. I was 8, 9, 10 years old. I remember my dad told me, "Do not tell your mother anything you hear." I was like, "Okay." So that SEC stadiums, they're a wild place, no doubt about it. What was it like playing between the hedges, as they say, down in Athens?
It's a once in a lifetime experience. That's what I keep telling these guys right now. The guys that really didn't do it, is there's nothing like getting to play a game in front of 50,000 people. I mean, you don't get that a lot in your life, and not many people do. And when we were down there, we got to play in front of 96,000. So I mean, when you got that many, I don't know how much 40,000 makes a difference when they're all rowdy, but just enjoy it and embrace it, man, because that don't come around too often. I mean, it's something you can tell your grandkids, because stuff like that, man, it's special to me, and like to go out there and put on a good performance, play to the best of our ability, man, and see what happens.
I think something special that you've kind of got in your back pocket when you've played in these big games, and it happened in Lexington against UK and in Athens against Georgia. You've made big plays, which small team quarterbacks. I'm going to stop saying that. FCS teams, when they go into these Power 5 schools and they've got to play these games, or it's David versus Goliath, a lot of them, it seems like they just get on their back and they're just like, well, we're here to collect a paycheck almost. But I mean, you came in the fourth quarter against Kentucky and you put on a show. Because I remember I was sitting on the couch in Murray, Kentucky, watching that game, and I had never seen Preston Rice play quarterback. That's when Drew was the starter, and you came in and you made a pass that I watched yesterday on YouTube, and it still doesn't make sense. I don't know how you didn't get sacked. You like evaded the rusher. You turned around. It was almost like a Menzel-like play. It was like Johnny Football in a Murray State uniform. And you rolled out, and I can't remember the receiver you hit, but he also made it was cut.
It was cut.
That makes sense. He made a really, really good catch. And then it was, I don't know if it was the next play, but it was a few plays later, you broke off that run. I was like, oh my God, this guy, he's going to do something. And then the next year, Georgia, you made that long pass. I think it was to Daquan.
Daquan Green. He's
Daquan.
no longer with us.
Yeah. Made that long. It was 60-yard touchdown pass to Daquan Green in Athens. And it tied the game at 7-7.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something else. What's it like making plays in front of, like you said, these huge crowds? The Kentucky crowd at that time, most of them had gone home. It was the game maybe wasn't as competitive as we wished. But that was first quarter and
Yeah.
tied the game 7-7. What's that like on
Yeah.
those huge stages?
Like you kind of said, I mean, a lot of teams that go in there, kind of want to lay down. I mean, my mentality is totally different. We don't have anything to lose, man. I mean,
Nope.
if I go out there and, have a bad game, no one's going to care. So I might as well just go have fun and try to make plays and, see what happens. Because I mean,
Sure.
if you're not trying to make plays in those games and try to just wait for something to happen, it's not going to happen for you. Too much talent's on the field, so you gotta kind of take charge and go try to make a play yourself. And luckily I did that a couple times, but hopefully I'll make a little more this week, and we can be competitive.
Oh, 1,000%. I think that mentality for anyone that watched the Kentucky game, the Murray State Kentucky game a couple years ago, or the Murray State Georgia game a couple years ago, they saw that. They 1,000% saw you play quarterback, and they're like, that guy came here to make a play, whether it's one play or all the plays.
Yeah.
He came here to do that, and it just comes off the screen watching, or when you're in attendance watching the Racers play on Saturdays. You mentioned this Saturday. You guys take on Cincinnati, like I said, top 10 team, a team that was this close to beating those Georgia Bulldogs I was talking about last year in a bowl game. Have you seen much? How much film have you watched? How familiar are you with what they did last week against Miami, Ohio, which was really impressive, I have to say.
Yeah, they're a good team, man. I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it or say anything else. I mean, they got two, I believe, projected first-round draft picks on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they're a good football team. There's a reason they're top 10 in the nation, man. And there's a reason they went to the Peach Bowl last year and, lost by a field goal. It's to a very good Georgia team that kind of found their quarterback at that time coming off the injury, JT Daniels. And so, I mean, they're a good team, but, we're a good team too. So, we got to come in there with that mentality. So.
Yep. I 1,000% agree. I think this is a really, really great Cincinnati team. And me and Dylan have talked about it as we've kind of previewed college football this summer. And a guy that always comes up when you talk about Cincinnati is their quarterback, Desmond Ridder. How familiar are you with Desmond, and what do you kind of expect to see out of him, or what do you guys expect to see out of him this Saturday?
I mean, there's a reason he's, in the conversation for a Heisman Trophy, man. And he big plays, he's consistent, and he's what you want in the quarterback. He's a good player, and it'd be fun going out there and competing against him on a Saturday.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into what I wanted to ask next. As a quarterback yourself, when you see a guy on the other sideline, you've been in this situation where Jake Fromm was on the other sideline, who's now he finds himself as an NFL free agent, but played for the Buffalo Bills last year.
Yeah.
You see another quarterback on that sideline who is a Heisman hopeful, who's a projected first-round pick more than likely. Does that get you fired up? You're like, man, I have a chance to go out, and there's going to be a spotlight on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, does that fire you up and get you excited?
I mean, playing against someone like that, like Fromm, I mean, those are electric guys, and there's a reason that Fromm was drafted and Desmond's going to be drafted. It brings out the best in you as a competitor. I mean, if you love to compete and love ball, you love moments like this, to be able to go out there and, see how good you are. I mean, you're playing the best. You want to compare yourself to the best. You don't want to, compare yourself to, someone that can't complete a pass. You want to go out there against someone that does it, and does it at an extremely high level like those guys do.
And you're definitely going to have that opportunity on Saturday. With it kind of seems like you're in this David versus Goliath situation where it's like you guys are a very good team, but the way people talk about it is Cincinnati's on another level. And that's got to put a chip on your shoulder. And to add on to that, in this first week of college football, we've seen a lot of I'm not going to say a lot. We've seen a few FCS schools go in to these Power 5 teams stadiums, and a few have won, and a lot of them have put on really, really competitive games.
Yeah.
Is that kind of, I don't know if that helps your psyche, or does that, do you guys see that and you're like, hey, they did it. East Tennessee went into Vanderbilt and they dominated. Montana went up to Washington. Washington's supposed to be good. Vanderbilt, God love them, they're not going to be that good
Yeah.
this year in East Tennessee. So Washington, a lot of people think is going to be good, and Montana was like, nah, we're the Grizzlies. We're taking care of business.
Yeah.
Does that kind of fire you guys up? Seeing that?
Yeah, for sure it does. I mean, I think you're starting to see that the difference in FCS and FBS, the gap's kind of closing, especially with the G5 schools and FCS and all that. I think that gap's kind of closing a little bit. And I think people starting to realize that. And I feel like all the FCS players have confidence now and feel like, why not us? Why can't we do the same thing that, Montana did or East Tennessee State did? you know, just figuring out just how good you actually are instead of coming in there with that mentality that, all right, let's collect the check and get on the bus,
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's when you look at a lot of these FCS teams that are good, like Montana's a very good team. East Tennessee's coming off a good year. Missouri State played really competitive last weekend. All these teams have something in common. They've got guys that transferred. They've got guys that went under the radar like you did. You went under the radar in high school and ended up in Murray State when maybe some people should have paid more attention to you. And I think that's something that stands out. And I agree with you. I think the competition is becoming more and more even, and it's getting exciting because we've seen what North Dakota State's done.
Oh yeah.
And it's exciting to see what's going to happen in years to come. I'm gonna at this time. Well, maybe not. Dylan's running off. I was gonna let Dylan ask you some questions. Dylan, you back? You wanna throw some questions Preston's way?
Yeah, sorry. I was just trying to make sure my dog wasn't barking right as I was getting my questions in. But yeah, Dylan handled a bunch of my questions already, but I think I've a couple things I wanted to ask you. I find every college athlete's recruiting story fascinating. So what was your story like? What was it like being recruited to Murray State?
I wasn't much recruited coming out of high school, man. Not gonna lie to you. I went to Wayne County, Tennessee, which is it's a 1A school in the middle of nowhere in southern Tennessee. So I didn't really get too many looks coming out. I actually have a unique one because I graduated high school early. Murray State called me in the summer, kind of wanted me to do some summer classes in case I wanted to, if I, just to give me the opportunity to do that, to leave school early. They called me, I did it. Well, I didn't hear from them for 4 months after that, and didn't hear from anyone else for 4 months after that. I think I had a couple other OVC schools, the team on the border that we don't really mention their name. So they were kind of interested, but went another way. And then Tennessee Martin was kind of interested, went another way. But Coach Stewart finally, after the season, I was at an All-Star game in Cookeville, Tennessee. He called my dad, told my dad he was going to offer me. Then he told me I committed. I think 3 days later, I didn't really care if it was D1 and football was being played. I was ready to go. I didn't mind much. And then, so about 4 or 5 days later, I committed. And then a month later, I was sleeping in Richmond dorms. So it all happened pretty fast.
That's awesome. I always love those stories. And I come from a place where, players don't get many looks either. So I totally understand that story. And I love it either way. You guys said you have high expectations for this team. Obviously, you had a great spring season. For someone outside looking in, maybe haven't seen you guys play before, can you just describe like the identity of your team and what you think the outlook of your season is going to look like because of that identity?
Oh, I believe we're tough, man. We're a tough team. We're gonna fight till there's zeros on the clock. I mean, you can ask anyone we play. That's how we play. We're gritty. We've kind of changed our identity from a couple years ago to now kind of a ground and pound. Get this and just wear you out until the end, and then we want to be close at the end, and then we feel like we have the playmakers to finish the game if need be. If it's still close or we're down, we feel like we can finish.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing a couple games this year. That's really Dylan got all of my questions out of the way, so I'll throw it back to Dylan to wrap it up.
I've got a few more questions, Preston, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
These are going to be a little more fun because they're off the
right.
dome. I'll be honest. Okay. So I was thinking because Dylan doesn't know a whole lot about Murray State football, which is fine. That we're on the come up, as I like to say. We're gonna hopefully be North Dakota State style in a couple years. But I mean, more people know about our basketball program because of guys like Jaw, Isaiah Cannon, guys like that. But I think our football program has more fun traditions.
Yeah.
And I think you would probably agree with that. We've got the better maybe history in basketball because we've been really, really good at basketball.
Yeah.
But in football, I mean, there's not another school in the country that after they score a touchdown, a live horse and jockey runs around the track. I mean, I guess I don't really know if this is a question, but I don't know how to word this as a question. I'm just trying to get across the specialness of Murray State football that maybe I don't know. I feel like it doesn't have that luster that me and you see that others. What do you think? What sets Murray State football apart? Maybe is what I'm asking.
Oh man, the horse is awesome. I mean, like that, and then you got the just one humongous side stadium, and then you got Cracker Barrel overlooking the other side. So it's just unique, man. There's no other place in the world or the football world where you're gonna see that. And I'm on the inside of it, so I get to see the day to day, the grind. We might not have the nicest things, but we have each other, and that's kind of the mentality you have when you're on this team, and it's one that brings you closer, and an experience I wouldn't trade for anything.
Oh, I love to hear that. I love to see kind of the transformation of Murray State football from like the time I got in college when KD Humphreys was quarterback and he was awesome to now with you at quarterback and kind of seeing kind of the same mentality because KD, I became friends with KD when he was quarterback, and the mentality was the football team was boys. They was ride or die, and I respected that because I played football in high school. And I was like, that's how it is. I love it, and it's still that way. And it's a special chemistry in the locker room, and you absolutely love to see it. We talked about this last week because we were talking about like the turnover chain and stuff at Miami. Do you guys still have the saddle on the sideline?
No, that kind of that was kind of Coach Stewart's thing. That kind of left when he did. So it's we don't have many of the what do you call them?
Maybe gimmicks.
The gimmicks, like it's Coach Hood's kind of more old school. Do your job, and a win is your reward, man.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But Miami's got the chain. Murray State's got Racer One, so maybe it's a fair trade-off.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think that's a fair trade-off, and it looks like we might have a little bit of a better season than the Canes. But they went against Alabama, so who knows? That's a hard.
They did have to go against Saban.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than Mississippi Valley State. I have no doubt they're going to be good, but a little bit different.
Nick Saban and the boys.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I will say I'm happy we're headed north to Cincinnati this weekend and not down to Tuscaloosa. That'd be a little different. But what I'm gonna leave with, I guess, unless I think of something while you're answering this.
Yeah.
You're a Tennessee native.
Yep.
And there's a pro team in Nashville that starts playing next Sunday.
Oh yeah.
How excited are you? Because Dylan knows since we've started this show, I have been almost unbearable, and they haven't touched the field. So I just want to hear kind of your thoughts about the good old Tennessee Titans.
Oh, I haven't won in the Super Bowl, man. Are you kidding me?
Same. Last week he asked me who's winning the Super Bowl. Tennessee Titans.
I got them and the Tampa Bay Bucks. So this is on record.
That's exactly what I predicted.
We're gonna take down Tom Brady
again
in the Super Bowl.
We took him down to New England and end him in the Super Bowl. I love it.
So I mean, Julio, AJ, and then you got Derrick Henry. Only thing I'm worried about is that defense, man. But preseason.
Yeah.
We look good. It is the preseason, but I can't wait. I'm like a kid before Christmas right now, waiting for Sunday.
I'm unbelievably excited to be in Cincinnati for this game, watch you and Desmond Ritter duel, then have a fun day in Cincinnati after that, celebrate a Racer win, wake up, go to maybe a Dave and Buster's or something in Cincinnati and watch the Titans play the Cardinals. Dylan, do you have anything?
Hopefully they don't rip my heart out again.
No, surely not. I think it'll be a really good game. And the fun thing is, the Titans, Ryan Tannehill, you're kind of like a college version of Tannehill. I kind of love it because you drop back and you're like, well, he's a quarterback. You might not expect Preston Rice to be the most athletic guy in the world when you watch him, but then you take off and it's like, all right, this guy's got wheels. And Tannehill, he's become Tanna Wheels. So you kind of got the college vibe of Tannehill going. I love it.
Like I said, I'm excited, but I have my guard up just because of the past, and they've ripped my heart out before. So I'm not doing it. I got my high hopes. They're my Super Bowl champs, even though I pick them every year. But you know, this year we have a legitimate shot. So we'll see. Hopefully it comes true. I'd love to be on Broadway after we win.
I hope I'm on Broadway with you in February when we win. I am very, very excited for the Titans season. I'm very excited for the rest of the Murray State season. I'm very, very excited for this Saturday to be in Cincinnati to watch you. I don't know where my tickets are. They'll be bought sometime in the next few days, but I'll be there. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch you and Desmond Ritter. I say Spencer Rattler every time. He's a different cat. They're both Heisman favorites.
Hey, what about that Tulane team though down there?
Oh, what do you think about the Tulane team?
They were impressive, man.
They sure were.
That was a good team. I think they played with a little chip on their shoulder after that. After that hurricane, I'd like to see what would happen if that was played at New Orleans, or it was originally supposed to play.
It might have been a different story.
Yeah.
So the Tulane quarterback, he impressed me. He played a brand of football that may be kind of similar to you. Would you agree with that?
He was tough.
Yeah, he was scrappy.
Man, he was tough.
It was really impressive. And they were a yard away from maybe doing something really special. That game was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. That was awesome. And then last night, you got Milton. I was so excited for him, man. Then I know he's worked his tail off to get back even to walk, man. And then now he's out there playing against the Fighting Irish, man.
And the fourth quarter coming in, and it looked like he was going to save the day, but came up a little short. A lot of QB magic in the last week. Hopefully we can get a little to carry over in the next weekend. You never know what can happen. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Preston,
bring your horseshoe for us on Saturday.
Oh, don't worry. I'll have a horseshoe. I'll have both my shoes up in the stand. I absolutely cannot wait. That's a great tradition that Brendan Bogenar started in Evansville, Indiana, at the OVC championship. Absolutely great tradition.
Let's keep it PG on here now.
Oh yeah, yep. We won't talk about what happened after the shoes went up.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Preston, for joining us. This was a blast. I really, really appreciate it. I look forward to this weekend. I look forward to the season and everything else that comes in between and after.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all having me, man.
It was awesome meeting you, Preston. Good luck for the rest of your season.
Hey, nice to meet you too.
Yeah. See you on Saturday.
See you, fellas.
See ya.
All right. Thanks again for Preston for joining us this week, and good luck to him and your Murray State Racers this weekend. Dylan, I know you'll be in Cincinnati for the game this week. Do you have any thoughts on how the game's going to go?
I don't know how the game's going to go. I just know I'm really, really excited to see both Murray State and Cincinnati. I got to watch a little bit of Cincinnati's game against Miami, Ohio last weekend, and I watched Murray's game against Mississippi Valley State, obviously. And Murray's a very good FCS team. Cincinnati's a very good FBS team. So I'm not positive it's going to be a great game. I really hope it is, because we've seen, like we talked about in the interview, we've seen these FCS teams be competitive with FBS teams so far this season. So that's all I'm really looking for. I want to see a good outing from Preston and the Racers, and I want to see what Desmond Ritter's got, because he's got a lot of hype, and I think we might talk about him a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Six. I saw this right before we got on. 6 FCS upsets of FBS teams in week 1. That's a pretty
I,
wild stat to start the year.
I
So
hope it goes up to 7.
I'm hoping for you too. I'm going to be rooting for you guys in that one as well. All right, we're going to move on to our questions and answers for this week. Excited to get the conversation going around some stuff on our mind this week. And to start, I wanted to talk about baseball and specifically Bryce Harper. And I know we will be revisiting our MLB award races next week, but I just felt the need to talk about Bryce Harper because he is having an unreal season. And unless you're following some of the nitty gritty baseball accounts on social media, you probably would have no idea that it's happening. He's second in the NL MVP odds. At one point, he was the only player other than Vlad Jr. Slashing 300, 400, 500 on the year. And really, he's closing in on Tatis. That MVP race is much closer than the AL MVP races, and really no one's talking about it. So I have a theory on why that is, but my question really is, why do you think baseball fans just don't care about Bryce Harper anymore?
I don't know. When you said this question, I was like, that is really interesting because I guess it just wasn't really in the forefront of my brain because I wasn't thinking about Bryce Harper. I mean, I even on Memorial Day weekend, I was at Great American Ballpark. I watched the Cincinnati Reds play the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't think Bryce Harper played in that game. I'm almost positive he didn't. And I was just kind of like, whatever. I get to watch Nick Castellanos and Jesse Winker and then whoever the Phillies roll out there. Because the Phillies, I mean, they've had a really competitive season. But in May, no one was really like, hey, the Phillies, they might be fighting for a playoff spot as we get towards September. I don't know. I've never been crazy about Bryce Harper. Like, I've never really been a fan. And I think he kind of came a little bit before this era where baseball fans are becoming okay with like, oh, Ohtani's a special talent. He might not play for my team, but I'm going to appreciate him. Fernando Tatis, he might not play for my favorite team, but he's such a special talent. I'm going to appreciate him. The same way with like the Blue Jays, their young core that everybody loves. It's hard not to love that young core, but not everybody's a Blue Jays fan. They have a great fan base, but they appreciate it. Bryce Harper was just a little bit before that in Washington, where everybody was just so gung-ho about like, I love the Cardinals. You love the Tigers. Like, I'm only going to root for my guys. You root for your guys, and that's it. And I think Bryce Harper maybe rubs some people the wrong way with some things he says, and maybe people just don't want to talk about him. I think that happens a lot with baseball is if you rub somebody the wrong way, you just stop getting talked about, which is unfortunate because Bryce Harper's awesome. And he's been awesome basically since he's touched a bat. I mean, I remember when he got drafted, they were showing the home runs he was hitting in Nevada. And that is some of the silliest things you'll ever see. You can go on YouTube and watch that. It's absolutely silly. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably just Bryce has rubbed people the wrong way. He's a little bit older than these young guys that's kind of like becoming everybody's baby boys, Ohtani and Tatis and the Blue Jays. Everybody loves them, but maybe Bryce is just right before that era, which is unfortunate because he's awesome. But I want to hear your theory on why he's kind of been forgotten about maybe.
Yeah, so I will fully admit I'm a pretty big Bryce Harper fan. I was one of the many on that bandwagon when he got on that Sports Illustrated cover when he was a sophomore in high school, where I was like, okay, this dude's going to be the next big thing. And I think a big part of baseball fans, either loving or hating Bryce Harper because he's such a polarizing type of guy, is a lot to do with his come up and the phenom status that he had, and comparing that to the come up that Mike Trout had at basically the exact same time. What we thought Bryce Harper was going to be was what Mike Trout ended up being, is basically what happened. Bryce Harper was supposed to be just this one of a kind baseball talent who was going to lead the MLB in home runs while also, leading batting average, OPS and all that. And it ended up being that Mike Trout, someone who was kind of overlooked in the draft, ended up doing all of those things, while Bryce Harper has just had, he's had a very good, very solid career, but, just underwhelming compared to what we thought it was going to be. So I think that's been a big part of just what the mood around Bryce Harper has been, because if he doesn't just, destroy every baseball, if he's not the best player in the MLB, I think people just, that combined with the massive contract he signed in Philadelphia it makes people go, okay, he's underperforming for what I expect for Bryce Harper. So it makes him seem less good than he is, because he's having a great year, but you still expect more from him. He's not hitting 300 and you're like, oh my God, he's not hitting 300. Why is Bryce Harper not? But that's a hard thing to do. And there's not a lot of guys in the MLB hitting 300 this year. So the fact that he's having a year like he is and just being overlooked by some people, I think it's, people have just gotten over the Bryce Harper phase, and we're kind of upset that he didn't become what he did. So now, they kind of take it out on him when he doesn't do what he needs to do. So I think it's unfortunate, because I like Bryce. I think he was one of the leaders before Tatis was doing the bat flips and stuff. He was I want to make baseball fun again. And I loved Bryce for that. And it just kind of sucks that he's having such a dominant season in Philly, and it's kind of just getting overlooked. Obviously, there's guys that are having amazing. It's tough not to talk about the MLB and not talk about what Shohei's done this year. And Tatis, has cemented himself as a future superstar. Obviously one of the best players in the league right now. But it just sucks. I think there's a lot of love to be dealt out to a lot of guys. I mean, the fact that Bryce Harper didn't make an all-star team this year, and he's probably going to, finish at least second in the MVP voting. I think just the conversation around Bryce Harper needs to change a little bit, because he's still a really awesome baseball player to watch. I think just people maybe overlook him a little bit.
I wonder if I didn't even think about the fact that he came in at the same time as Trout almost, and that it makes a lot of sense. They're both outfielders. They both hit the piss out of the baseball, and maybe Trout has been a little bit more consistent, but I don't even know if that argument really go. But Mike Trout is one of the best players ever. It's hard to compare anyone to Mike Trout. That's just not fair. Bryce Harper's awesome. And I wonder if and I don't know how we could look at this, but I wonder if this kind of cloud over Harper got even bigger after he went to Philadelphia. Because those fans, I mean, Philadelphia fans are a special breed, and I think that's pretty well known. So I wonder if it's, hey, we got Bryce Harper and we expect him to be chasing pennants and World Series, and it hasn't really happened. So that very well could happen. I mean, they ran Carson Wentz and everyone else out of the Eagles organization. So I don't know. That could have something to do with it, because Harper is incredible. When you look at the numbers, he's definitely right there for MVP. And if Tatis isn't careful, he could get that stolen from him. And it seemed like he had it locked up. So yeah, I agree with that. It's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that massive contract he signed with Philly, I think you got to live up to that. And in some seasons he hasn't. I think that's, the other thing that you can knock on Bryce is, his best seasons, like that MVP season that he had back in whenever it was. I can't remember when it was, but some unreal numbers. But then he followed it up with just an okay average season after that. So his highs are really good, but he can bottom out pretty quickly. But I enjoy it when he's playing at his best. And I think, the MLB community as a whole should do so as well. My other question revolves around fantasy football, because we drafted teams this week. We're both in the same league with our coworker Colby Marcio, and we drafted right next to each other in the draft on Tuesday. I just wanted to know how you're feeling about your team and the fantasy football season as a whole as it gets started this week.
So I'm very excited about the team I got in Colby's league. I've been in 2 other fantasy drafts so far as we're getting ready for football season, actually starting tonight with the Buccaneers and Cowboys. And the other 2 drafts, I was like, I'm out of money. One of the leagues was $50, and I was like, well, I lost $50. Whatever. It went really bad. But this one, it went really, really well. My starting lineup, I still can't believe it's my starting lineup. I have Tom Brady, Derrick Henry, which I have you to thank for Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Stephon Diggs, Julio Jones, George Kittle. Chase Edmonds is in my slot right now. I don't know if that's going to last, but we'll see. The Broncos defense, and then my boy Younghoe Koo from Atlanta. And right now I'm projected the most points in the league at 131.5 as my total projected points, which is crazy. I don't know if they're going to live up to it, but I'm very, very happy. And I think I got some sleepers on the bench. Snagged Corey Davis, former Titan. I think he's going to be really, really good with Zach Wilson. Raheem Mostert out of San Francisco, Baker Mayfield, Marquez Callaway, who I got to watch several times when he played for Tennessee, and then Sterling Shepard's a guy I've loved since he was at Oklahoma. I've had him in fantasy almost every year since he's been in the NFL. Grabbed Michael Carter, rookie out of North Carolina for the Jets, and then my boy ASAP Burke for the Titans. I think he's a real secret that not a lot of people know about because he's a name that people don't know, and he's going to be a starting tight end. So he probably won't get many starts over George Kittle because Kittle's one of the best in the league, but you never know, and it keeps it from someone else. How'd you feel about the draft on Tuesday?
It was a fun draft. I had a little bit of technical issues in the middle of it, of course. Right as it started, a storm blew through Michigan. My power flickered for maybe an instant, and then knocked out my cable for the rest of the night. So I had to figure out a way to get around that. I missed just like 1 or 2 picks, but I'm still really happy with my team. Like you said, in the first round, I had that choice to take Derrick Henry. But I decided not to. I decided to let him fall to you. I was going to take him if you weren't right there next to me, because I knew that you were lining up to get him. So I decided to go with Travis Kelce in the first round, which I think was maybe a bit of a reach for Kelce. But when you get the top tight end in fantasy football, you're happy most of the time at the end of the year. So I'm going to take Travis Kelce, banking on the fact that he's probably going to be the best tight end in the league again. So I'm happy with that. I've talked about how much I like the Cowboys. They're starting tonight. So Dak's getting the start tonight. That's my quarterback. I've also got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James Robinson at Jacksonville. That was one of my auto picks that I but I'm still happy with that there. CeeDee Lamb is going to be a very solid wide receiver 1, along with Adam Thielen. I wanted to get Justin Jefferson, but Colby took him right before I could get him. So I'll take Adam Thielen. He's going to be just as good, probably, even though I'm expecting big things from Justin Jefferson this year. I've got an interesting situation. Another one of my auto picks was Javonte Williams at Denver, so I decided to get Melvin Gordon along with him. So whoever's getting the most carries in Denver, I'm hopefully going to be getting the points from them. And then I've got the Ravens defense along with Matt Prater, the former Lions kicker. The only reason I took him was because I know at some point he's going to hit like a 60-yarder, and I'm going to feel really good about that pick. So it may be a boom bust type kicker, but I'm happy to have Matt Prater. And then I've got some good guys on the bench. I've got Curtis Samuel on the bench right now. He's questionable right now, but he'll most likely be in my starting lineup at some point during the year. Laviska Shenault, I think is going to be awesome for Jacksonville this year. Henry Ruggs, Devontae Parker, James White out of New England, and Tua as my backup quarterback. And I'm hoping the Dolphins are going to be pretty good this year. Maybe not, but I'm hoping for big things from Tua this year. So I think it's pretty solid. I'm never good at fantasy football. I'm always terrible at fantasy football. So hopefully this year is a little bit different though. I'm feeling good about my team. I'll get to see my quarterback in action tonight. So excited about that. What questions do you have for me this week?
Well, first I want to say I really wanted Curtis Samuel because I've talked about how much I love Washington, and I'm very excited to watch Washington this year. I've almost adopted them as my NFC team because I just really, really like what they're doing. But yeah, Curtis Samuel, really, really like that pick. I think he's awesome, and he's a Buckeye, and he's got to be good if you're getting him, and he's a Buckeye. Question:
Curtis Samuel had one of the most painful plays for me as a Michigan fan. Because everyone remembers the spot with JT Barrett, but no one remembers the play right before that when we had them about 3rd and 15, and Curtis Samuel ran about 20 yards backwards and still ended up making it to a 4th and 1. If we would have just tackled him on that play, that we wouldn't have even had to stop JT on that spot. But go ahead with your questions.
Hey, he's electric, and he's going to help you in fantasy. So there you go. I'm going to stick with football, and I did it for both my questions because I'm really fired up for football right now. College football, it's really got going in the last 2 weeks or so. And something that's the really only thing that's been the downer is how long games take. And a reason for that is all the targeting calls and all the penalty calls that go on in a game. And we've talked about this a little bit because it's a huge conversation every year when college football gets going. What do you think about the rule, and do you think it's hurting college football? Because obviously we don't have it in the NFL. Some states have it in high school, and then what can we do to fix it if it is hurting the game?
This is an argument that I see both sides of because it's tough. On one hand, it's obviously something we're going to need to, the hard hits to the head, the dangerous hits that they're trying to get out of the game by these targeting rules are something that needs to be out of the game. It's just, as much as we want to say, that's old school football and you need to be able to take hits. If we can't protect the players down the road, then we're not going to have football down the road. That's just how it's going to be. They're going to go play other sports because there's just no point in subjecting yourself to massive head injuries over and over and over again for a minuscule shot at playing in the NFL and making some money off of it. So we really need to be able to protect players. On the other side, the targeting rule, it gets a little bit too much because we all can, while we don't want refs judging intent, we as fans are always judging intent. And with these targeting rules, the intent is taken out of it. And I think that is what gets under a lot of people's skin a lot of the time, especially when you go to review it, because the rules are a little bit vague, a little bit, people don't understand that they're not reviewing if they intentionally tried to target someone. They're just reviewing if the rules were actually broken. And it's a tough spot when you also add an ejection on top of that, because players most of the time are trying to get away from that. The targeting rule has been in for so long that it has had the effect that coaches are trying to coach that out of the game. So most of the time when targeting comes into effect, it's an honest accident. It's a guy's going to the ground and he's lower than he thought he was. And then all of a sudden the head makes contact with the head. They're trying to lead with the shoulder and the head just kind of glances at the head. So I think on one case, I see, a way, sort of like the incidental face mask penalty that we used to have in college football and pro football, where we can judge intent in that way where, he wasn't trying to target him, but that's still a play that we need out of the game. So, it's still a 15-yard penalty, but you don't get ejected. But at the same token, I think the ejections do the job in there's a reason that coaches have coached that out of the game. It's not because they don't want the penalty, because they can take the 15-yard penalty. They don't want to lose a valuable player of their defense for, possibly the rest of the game or a half of the next game. So I see both sides of it. I see why it makes sense, but I think there's just, there should be a way to judge intent in that way. And I think it's something that we need to do in sports more often. I think we have enough cameras. We have enough ways to review these things. We can really judge what a player is doing. It's pretty obvious when a guy's leading with his head, not really obeying the targeting rules, versus a guy who accidentally breaks the rules. So I just want to see some leeway so that we don't get guys ejected for silly mistakes rather than, intentional malicious plays.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's a rule that nobody likes, but everybody thinks is like, yeah, it's doing its job. It's keeping guys safe. No one wants any of the guys playing on Saturdays or Fridays or Sundays to get hurt, and they don't want them to have head-to-head collisions where down the road they can have anything happen to them. That no one wants to see that. Everybody wants everybody to stay healthy and in just great shape. I think the problem with targeting is, like you said, with it, the human aspect of it with the referees, and we've talked about this with other sports. I think the fix that I have in mind is, which I doubt this would ever happen. I love college football, but they don't do a lot of things the smartest way. College football is kind of like board heavy. They've got the college football playoff board where all these people meet to decide like who do we want in this college football playoff? Who do we want in this poll in the top 25? All that. Why not have it like the NBA, where if a rule needs to be reviewed, you send it off to New York, you send it off to wherever it wants to be, and these people can sit for 5 minutes or whatever it is, because they take that time anyways in the game to look at it. It takes forever for these calls to be reviewed and decide whether the guy's going to be ejected or not, and then they can decide. So it's unbiased. They're not in the heat of the game with these guys. Because refs are right there by these guys, and they can rub shoulders, and guys can say things to refs and get under their skin, and you never know what can happen. And you don't want that to come into a factor of whether somebody's going to get ejected or not. So that would be an interesting way to do it, I think. I don't know if it would fully accomplish maybe taking that time away and extending the game, but it might be a way to clean up the bias and maybe get a good way of judging intent and such. But I don't know. I do think it's necessary. The rule is, and I think, like you said, it's cleaned up the game a lot because coaches are coaching it, and it does seem like we're seeing a lot less helmet-to-helmet contact since it's come in. It really does seem like we're seeing that. I don't know. I think it's something we're going to deal with kind of for just the rest of time. It's just kind of something. I think a lot of people got used to it, but when college football gets started up, everybody's sitting at home watching football on Labor Day weekend. They're like, oh, we got to deal with another one of these 10-minute intervals where we get to watch 37 Applebee's commercials, and they're going to talk about targeting for the whole time, which isn't fun, but they're just trying to keep guys safe and trying to make the game as safe as possible, fun as possible, and as good as possible, which we can do nothing but appreciate that. And for my second question, as I go on from targeting to some more fun stuff, I'm gonna keep it with football. NFL's kicking off this weekend. We're starting tonight, actually, with Tampa Bay and Dallas, which is gonna be an awesome game. I just want to know, is there a single better weekend of the entire year? Not even just sports, but just a single better weekend than NFL kickoff weekend, opening weekend. Because I mean, you've got NFL, college football. There's meaningful baseball on. I mean, there's just anything you can want. I'd assume there's fights on somewhere if you would like to watch boxing or UFC. I'm sure you could find it. But I just want to know, is there a single better weekend?
I mean, it's a great weekend, no doubt. My first thought was college football, but then, the college football weekend is by itself. Basically, there is no NFL. NFL, you get the best of both worlds. So the only thing, and it's not really a weekend, it's just a full week in the sports world. There's nothing that beats March Madness, the first week of March Madness. That's my favorite time of the year in anything. Holidays or anything. The first weekend of March, or the first week of March Madness games is unbeatable in my mind. But in terms of the football slate actually getting going, it really doesn't get better than this. Maybe the only the only thing that can compete with it is that late December, early January time when the college football playoffs are starting to get going and the NFL playoffs are almost getting going. The division races are finally getting decided and the wild card races are really heating up that time of year, but that's a very vague time and it changes a little bit. The opening weekend of the NFL is really unmatched in terms of football weekends.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a blast. And like you said, March Madness, that time, that Thursday through Sunday frame, you can't really beat it. And I think these are just right neck and neck. And I'm not going to call them a tie because I don't want that cop out. March Madness might beat it out. I really love college basketball, but with everything going on with it being NFL, and we've got kind of an idea of what these college teams are doing. We've seen a little bit of action, so we're getting excited for what to see. I think this might edge it out. There's a lot of excitement. No matter who your team is, you're excited to see the ball snapped and just everything going on with opening festivities. And I'm really excited to be in Cincinnati with the Bengals having a home opener on Sunday and maybe going to it. I don't know. Future Dylan will know that answer next week. I don't know if I'll be in attendance at Paul Brown Stadium on Sunday or not, but I hope I am. Yeah, I think it's a great weekend. I really do. It's one of these, it's just, you get every few months, you get these weekends where there's just so much going on. There's so much excitement. And this is one of them. And this is one of the good ones because everyone's enthusiastic. Because like the playoff weekends, it's just a few fan bases. And then obviously super fans are like, oh, it's playoff time. But right now, everybody's just like, it's football. We get to watch our teams be. And even like Texan fans might fool themselves and be like, hey, we're going to be okay. Tyrod Taylor is going to lead us to greatness, and we're going to escape out of the AFC South. I don't think that's going to happen, but they can think that, and that's the great thing about this weekend.
I was thinking about that too. It's just, hope for NFL fan bases is at an all-time high. And this is the week where it's at an all-time high, and it'll basically cut in half after this weekend, and it'll keep going farther and farther down after that. But we can at least as NFL fans together be as hopeful in our teams as each other, because we're all 0-0. The season starts tonight with the Cowboys getting going tonight. So excited for that. Always love the discussions that these questions bring up. We will be moved back to football as we look forward one more time before the season is officially underway, with tonight, Cowboys and the Bucs kicking off. So we're going to let you guys know the individuals we are watching for the biggest awards in both college football and professional football, the Heisman Trophy, as well as the NFL MVP award. We'll start in the college ranks since we've already seen a few games already. Dylan, what are your way too early Heisman thoughts?
So I have two guys. They're both quarterbacks that I have on my way too early Heisman watch, coming off one entire football game for each of them. That I got that much of a preview, and I was like, all right, let's send them to New York. They need to be there for the ceremony in December. First, and I imagine he's on everybody's short list right now. Redshirt freshman quarterback at the University of Alabama, Bryce Young. I hate that he's in Crimson because he is so much fun to watch, and he is. If Sunday or last Saturday was a preview of what we're going to see all year, because Miami, they had a lot of hype. Miami's been playing really good defense the last few years. What he did with an offense that some said was depleted, which is a crazy way to describe an Alabama offense. I've been watching them my whole life. They've never been depleted. There might be question marks because they're 18 years old and they were, I don't know, the number one player in their area before coming to Alabama. If that's a question mark, sure. But for some reason, not everybody was sold that Alabama was going to just dominate again. They are, and they showed it against, I think, is a good Miami team. I want Miami to be good. They've shown improvement. I think Manny Diaz has done a good job on South Beach and Coral Gables, but they put a whooping on him. Bryce Young was really impressive. And I mean, it just makes you think he's going to be there in New York in December, the second weekend or whatever it is. And probably in the college football playoff. Like, just seems like Alabama has one of the 4 spots every year at this point, and Bryce Young's just going to be the man to lead them, like the last 3 quarterbacks, whatever it's been in Tuscaloosa. And then the other one is a guy I get to watch this weekend. It's not Preston Rice. I wish it was Preston Rice, but I don't believe Preston can qualify for the Heisman. I'm talking about Cincinnati's quarterback, Desmond Ridder. Desmond is a Kentucky guy. He's from Louisville. He went to St. Xavier High School in Louisville, Kentucky. So I've known about him for a little while because when he was coming up through high school, they're like, this kid is St. X. He's something. He can do some things. Then they announced he was committing to Cincinnati. I was like, okay, keep an eye on this kid at Cincinnati, Ridder. And then he's got Cincinnati. All he's done is just get better and better. He started making noise last year. Cincinnati put together a really good season. And then I think he got a real big spotlight on him in that bowl game against Georgia, where they beat Georgia. They did. They had them beat, and they just weird clock management. And Georgia was able to take advantage of it and get a field goal and escape with a win. That game blew me away, and it might have been big time bias because I don't love Georgia, and he's a Kentucky guy, and I was in Cincinnati for that bowl game, so it might have just been a lot of euphoria, and I just kind of fell under for it. But he just was really impressive. I think Luke Fickell's done a great job with him, and they showed that last week against Miami of Ohio, which is not – they both played against Miami's, both Bryce Young and Desmond Ridder. The Miami that Bryce Young torch was a little more impressive than the Miami that Desmond Ridder torch, but you gotta play who's in front of you, and he did that. I'm really excited to watch Desmond Ridder on Sunday. I think he's a really special player. I don't think it matters that he's not in a Power 5. I think the American Conference is really solid, and they've shown that over the last few years. They just got to play who's in front of them. And Cincinnati, they're good, and they're going to continue to show it just like they did last year. But yeah, Desmond Ridder and Bryce Young are the 2 guys on my early Heisman list. What about you?
Yeah, Cincinnati has done a really good job. I saw them coming to Michigan a few years back, the beginning of the Luke Fickell era, and to see where they've come since then is wild. And Desmond Ridder is a really good quarterback. I think this Heisman Trophy race is I think it's going to be one of the most wide open races of all time. We've obviously talked about a lot about how weird last season was, and so how hard it is to get a sense of any of the teams. So it's even harder to get a sense of like how each player is going to translate to this year, because last year was so weird. So big years from last year are tough to gauge, and even tough years from last year are tough to gauge. But also, outside of Oklahoma, we've talked about it. All of these top teams are breaking in new quarterbacks. You talked about it with Alabama with Bryce Young, Clemson with Uiagalelei, Ohio State with Stroud. So all of these typical powerhouses are breaking in brand new quarterbacks, and we're going to have to see how they do consistently. So it's hard to give favorites right now. I have a few. Bryce Young's also on my list, and I think of those new quarterbacks, I think he's going to be the best of all of them. Alabama is just too stacked, and CJ Stroud is really good too. But I honestly think Ohio State's playmakers are better than CJ Stroud. I think that kind of holds him back in the Heisman conversation, because Alabama's obviously got playmakers, but Chris Olave is a different story, and that's actually the second player I'm going to mention. I think Chris Olave is going to be in New York at the end of the year. It hurts me to say that, but I think that this OSU offense is going to be so dominant, and then he's going to put up some dominant numbers within that dominant offense. I think he's going to be a wide receiver invited to New York this year. I think he's going to it's going to be stupid what Chris Olave can do against the Big Ten this year, because I think, we saw Indiana's not as good as we thought it was last week. Penn State might be all right. Their defense looks pretty good, but I think Olave is going to put up some stupid numbers this year. So it hurts me to say it, but I think Olave will be there. And then I still think Spencer Rattler will bounce back after a less than stellar performance against Tulane last week. He's still the most talented quarterback in the most quarterback friendly system. So I think at the end of the year, he's just going to, Oklahoma quarterbacks always have just dumb stats at the end of the year, and it's tough to not put even if they have like a less than, a season less than what we expected, he's still going to have more touchdowns and less interceptions than the next guy on the list. So I think Spencer Rattler, I'd put Chris Olave as my favorite right now, because I think he's just so dynamic in the Ohio State offense. It pains me every time I say it, but I honestly think he's the best player right now in college football. But of course, way too early. We will see how things move on. We will move on to the NFL. Dylan, who are you looking at as possible MVP candidates for this season?
I just want to say something about Chris Olave before I get to my MVP. I love Chris Olave, and I can't remember the first time I saw him. I was watching Ohio State, and he made a play, and I was like, oh my God, that kid's amazing. I don't know who he is. I like, he turned around. I was like, that Olive kid, he's something special. And I was sitting there with somebody like, it's Olave. I was like, oh, Olave. And I looked him up, and Chris Olave. I was like, okay. I was like, I'll remember this name. And then he just continued to just do more and more and more and more. And he is a stud. I would love to see him in New York. He's one of my two favorite receivers in all of college football right now. It's him and Drake London out in Los Angeles with USC. He's a stud. They need to get the ball to him more. That's my only issue with USC. I love that team. I don't know how I ended up loving the Trojans, but I do. I've almost made myself a fan. But I really, really, really love the Keaton Slovis to Drake London connection. I need them to get just more action to Drake London, and in a couple weeks I might have him in my Heisman watch. I don't know. I'd love to have that though. I really, really like Drake London, and I really, really like Chris Olave. As far as NFL MVP though, I don't see either one of them winning NFL MVP this year because they're not in the NFL. Maybe in a couple years, because they're both really great players and I really like them. You know who I want to say for NFL MVP. I think everybody listening knows who I want to say for NFL MVP. He wears number 22 and resides in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm not going to say number 22 for the Tennessee Titans, Derrick Henry. I really, really want to. I just don't want to be wrong, and I don't want to set up Derrick for failure because they're not going to give it to a running back. It does not matter because he should have won it last year, in my opinion. I think it's BS. But it's become a quarterback award, and it is what it is. Derrick's the best running back in the league, in my opinion. He was the best player last year, in my opinion. But that's old news. We're looking at this year. Who's gonna come away with it? And you've talked a lot about how Aaron Rodgers is really fired up. He's gonna have a big year. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I think there's another quarterback that's going to have another a chip on his shoulder that might be just as big. And he's a former MVP as well. Out of Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. I think a lot of people are counting them out for some reason because the Buccaneers boat raced them in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs had a ton of injuries, and that Buccaneers team, as I've said, and we've said, and everyone has said over the past few weeks and months, and since Jameis left and they got Tom Brady, that Buccaneers team's awesome. They've got talent everywhere. And even if the Chiefs would have been healthy, they still probably wouldn't have beat that Bucs team. I think a healthy Chiefs team and a highly motivated Mahomes with a highly motivated Travis Kelce, a highly motivated Tyreek Hill, and a highly motivated defense is terrifying. And I don't think anyone wants to see the Chiefs. I don't think anybody would want to see a non-motivated Chiefs team. They're just that talented. But I think they're going to have a real big chip on the shoulder. I think Mahomes is going to put up those video game numbers that we got used to in his like red shirt rookie season when he first came out. I expect really big things from Pat Mahomes, and I expect to see those stupid passes that make no sense. And they're like, you couldn't even do this in Madden because Patrick Mahomes defies the logics of time and space. And he's going to throw a bajillion touchdowns because he's got 17 games, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Mahomes is just really, really good. And I'd like to see him have an MVP season. Yeah, I'm going to go with Mahomes, even though I really want to go with Derrick Henry. Who do you have?
That's a great pick. I agree with you. People overlook the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes for what happened in the Super Bowl last year. People forget what he was doing in that Super Bowl. You remember those incompletions that he was throwing that people, I still remember, I think it was the NFL films that they posted on social media afterwards, and the Buccaneers sidelines just going like, dude, how did he just do that? Like, how was that even possible that he just threw that ball, not even just got the ball away, but threw it on a line in a catchable spot for his receivers. They didn't bring him down, but it was like, he's special. He's something like we've never seen before. So I love that pick. I don't have Pat Mahomes as my pick right now. I've got three guys written down as my favorites. 1, 2, and my third one's completely out of the box. I don't think it'll happen, but I'm just hoping that somehow the NFL changes and it will happen. My first pick, you talked about it. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is on a season of destiny this year. I think, the 30 for 30 that I'm predicting is going to happen about this team only gets better if he has another MVP season. So I think him and Devontae Adams are going to absolutely tear up the NFC North. The NFC North sucks this year. So he's going to have a whale of a time, at least 6 games of the year. So I'm expecting big things from Aaron Rodgers. Another quarterback I also think could have a huge year is Dak Prescott, if he is healthy. He finally got paid this offseason, and this Cowboys team looks really good in another weak division. That Dak to CeeDee Lamb combo just gets better this year with him being healthy, and I expect Dak to really bounce back. I'm hoping maybe that's a little bit biased with my fantasy football pick, but I actually do think Dak is destined for a really big year. So he's my second favorite. And the complete out of the box, you said it's a quarterback's award. But if we're gonna go with any player other than a quarterback, my favorite player in the league is Justin Jefferson, and I think he is going to be have an absolute stud year this year. You think about the stats that he put up as a rookie and then come back, and he's probably going to be the number one target. Adam Thielen, is obviously still there, but I think Justin Jefferson is just going to progress even more as he gets into the league farther, as he gets more years under him. I think he's going to be one of those guys that puts up those stupid video game numbers at the wide receiver spot where people are going to have to think about it. They're not going to vote for him, but it'll be like week 7 or week 8, and someone's going to be like, does Justin Jefferson deserve to be in the MVP conversation? And that's all. If a big ESPN or a big writer somewhere has that question somewhere, then I'll say that this pick was worth it in my mind, because I that's what I'm expecting from Justin Jefferson, is just like stupid numbers that you're like, okay, maybe he is the best player in the league. I know he's a wide receiver, but maybe he is.
I like that. And I like that you went out of the box. So I want to go out of the box, and I'm going to do it on the fly because I only had 2, so I want to get one more out there. And I'll ask your opinion. Should I get way out of the box? Like, let's say the box is in, like, let's say Nashville. Like, here's the box. I'm going to be out of it, and I'd be in, like, New York. Should I get that out of the box?
I'm talking, yeah, get it as out of the box
right.
as you can. We didn't have an out of the box
So,
draft, so we need
we
something
didn't.
out of the box.
This could make me look real stupid, but I'm okay with it. I'm expecting a real big year out of a quarterback that struggled in the last few years. He's a young quarterback. He's got a new scenario, a new coaching staff, new support, but some old support, some guys he knows. And I'm talking about the young man out of USC, Sam Darnold. I really think he's going to have a big year. And I could be real dumb, but I think that Matt Rule offense is really good. I think Darnold's crazy underrated because he got destroyed by Adam Gase. Because Adam Gase was great with Peyton Manning, but boy, oh boy, every other quarterback he's touched, man, it has not gone well. And he's got Matt Rule, who I absolutely adore. I think he's a great coach. And then if you look at that offense, it is loaded. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, who Sam Darnold's had the most success of his career with Robbie Anderson. So that's on this Sunday, fully expect Sam Darnold to go to Robbie Anderson early and often. I'm excited to see that. That defense is really good. They're going to get the ball back to Darnold a lot. Christian McCaffrey's going to eat up yards. Christian McCaffrey's really good at catching the ball and running. It's going to make Sam Darnold's stats look better. I am being honest. I do not expect Sam Darnold to be the most valuable player in the National Football League, but I'm getting real out of the box. I'm expecting him to be a lot better than he has been because I think he's very, very talented. I think he's shown that in flashes when he's been allowed to. I think he's in a really, really, really good situation in Carolina. I really like that team. It's them in Washington. I'm like, I just want to adopt them. I love them. I love Washington. I love Carolina. I think they're both really, really fun teams. I expect a lot out of Sam Darnold this year. But yeah, that's way out of the box. Like, that might even be like past like New York, like out in the ocean, maybe like over to like the UK. It's way out of the box.
Yeah, you sent that box on a freighter and put it out to sea, and it is somewhere out there right now on its way over in the Atlantic Ocean. But hey, that's what we do. That's what we got to do on these. That's what we got to do sometimes. You got to get out of the box. I like it. Be sure to let us know on social media what you guys think of our picks and who else you guys think should be in these conversations. We will move on to This Week in Sports with a little preview action. Dylan and I wanted to take a second and look back on what our teams did last week and what we expect for them in the week upcoming. Both Michigan and Tennessee got wins last week over MAC opponents, while the Lions and Titans get going on Sunday. Dylan, what are your thoughts on your teams this week? We'll start with the college ranks because they played already.
So I think I'm one of few people that was really impressed with Tennessee against Bowling Green. I don't know what it was, but just the difference between Tennessee under Josh Heupel and Tennessee under Jeremy Pruitt-Musher. I think people forgot just how bad Tennessee was on offense. And it's a lot of the same players. There are new faces. Joe Milton come over from Michigan, and there's new receivers, but a lot of the guys are the same. A lot of the same linemen, tight end, a few of the receivers, running backs are both new, but still a lot of the same faces that were in just a terrible offense. And at the beginning of that game, they were going, and it looked really good. And I was like, we haven't seen stuff like that since like Josh Dobbs and Jalen Hurd and Alvin Kamara, guys that were really, really good. So that was really encouraging. And they won by 31 points, 32 points, whatever it was. We've talked about a lot of I'm not going to say D1, they're all D1, FCS and FBS. A lot of Power 5 schools struggled against FCS opponents this past weekend. 6 teams, like you said, lost to FCS opponents. Bowling Green's a MAC school. They're no slouch. I mean, they were not good last year, but they had a lot of transfers. And that's still a MAC school. The MAC plays competitive football. That's not a bad football conference at all. And Tennessee dominated them for the whole game. I don't know why people were so down about it. People were concerned about Joe Milton's passing numbers. I think I'm being very optimistic because I think there were some drops that hurt him. I think Joe maybe threw the ball a little hard sometimes, which has been a concern with him. even at Michigan and then now at Tennessee. I think there's the mistakes that they made are very, very they're very easily fixed. And I was not looking forward to their game this weekend against Pittsburgh at all. I really, really, really like what Pittsburgh's done the past few years. They've been competitive against basically everyone. And I was like, they're going to come in Knoxville and destroy Tennessee. They play really good defense. I was like, they're going to shut this offense down. But I don't know. It's a noon kickoff. Tennessee fans are crazy. They're almost like those Philadelphia fans I was talking about earlier. They might be a little bit nicer. Philadelphia fans they're kind of mean. Tennessee fans are too if you're not on their side. But I just see the good side of Tennessee fans. They're going to be rowdy, that's for sure. Because I mean, Pittsburgh, they've been talking about how they've endured these crazy atmospheres like Happy Valley and Clemson and Notre Dame. Knoxville's different because Tennessee's not good. So Tennessee fans are clamoring to win any game. They don't care who it is. Pittsburgh, sure, they just want the win. So I think Neyland's going to be rocking, but I think Pittsburgh's probably going to beat them. I'm not very optimistic. I don't think the win's happening. I think Heupel's first test against the Power 5 team, he's probably going to come up a little short. It reminds me a lot of when Tennessee played BYU a couple years ago. It was one of Zach Wilson's first starts at BYU. I think it's going to be competitive throughout. It'll be a little different. I think there's going to be more points scored in this one, but I think Pittsburgh's probably going to come away with it. Tennessee struggles to close out these non-conference games against teams that I think are pretty similar. I don't know that Pittsburgh's just crazy good this year, but I think they've just got experience and they know how to play just good football. I think that's going to be the difference maker. Tennessee's still learning their identity, which sucks, but it's going to be fun. They're going to put up points. I feel sure of that because that Heupel offense is something else. It's fun. And I think Joe Milton is going to have flashes, and Joe Milton's going to have times where I'm like, man, that was not fun at all. Why did he do that? But I don't know. I'm excited. That's all I can really ask for with Tennessee football at the moment because 6 months ago, I was like, I'm never going to be excited again. It's all going to go to the pits of hell. But it doesn't seem so. I think it's going to be okay. How do you feel about the Big Blue in Michigan?
I just wanted one quick thing about Joe Milton. I saw a tweet while you guys were playing that said, if you need Joe Milton to throw the ball 40 yards, he'll throw it 40 yards. If you need Joe Milton to throw the ball 30 yards, he'll still throw it 40 yards. So then that's what I'm
glad you said that. My dad called me Friday morning after they played Thursday. He called me Friday morning. He said, that Milton kid, he's pretty good. I was like, yeah, I like him. I think he's going to learn. I think he's going to come into himself in the orange and white. He's like, yeah. He's like, I think he could throw some nice 70-yard passes this year. I was like, yeah, I think he definitely could. Like Mahomes, he does that in the NFL. He's like, yeah, but we might call a screenplay and he'll throw it 70 yards. I was like, yeah, he might do that. That's the Joe Milton experience, though. I'm excited.
Absolutely. It's a high highs and low lows, and you got the high highs. Let's hope it's not the low lows already from Pittsburgh this week. For Michigan, things went well last week, almost perfect. I would say 9 out of 10 boxes were checked. We dominated Western Michigan, which we should have done. Our offense looked good. We ran the ball well. Caden McNamara looked solid. He's a game manager quarterback. We knew that coming in, but he looked solid in his time at quarterback. And even the freshmen looked really good. We have 2 5-star freshmen, JJ McCarthy, the quarterback, and Donovan Edwards at running back. Both of them looked pretty good in their limited amount of time. So there was really nothing from the gameplay that looked really bad. I thought the defense looked better this year. We're breaking a new defensive coordinator after Don Brown finally went off into wherever he's at now. The biggest issue, obviously, was losing wide receiver Ronnie Bell to a torn ACL, losing him for the season, and that just it puts a lot of pressure on a wide receiver group that was already really inexperienced. Ronnie was the only guy with a ton of experience, but now our next biggest guy is Cornelius Johnson with 20 catches. Something happened.
Yeah. So my sports update, many of you might be familiar on Twitter. He likes to tweet out a lot of breaking news in the NFL. He just tweeted that Ravens running back Gus Edwards has tore his ACL, I believe. He tore his ACL. So he's the third Ravens running back in the last 2 weeks to either tear an ACL or tear an Achilles. J.K. Dobbins towards ACL on August 28th. Justice Hill towards Achilles on September 2nd, and Gus Edwards today tears his ACL. They signed Le'Veon Bell to their practice squad, so we might get some Le'Veon Bell action this weekend.
It sounds like Le'Veon Bell is just everyone's just tearing their ACL, getting out of the way of Le'Veon Bell.
That's crazy.
That's
all right. Back to Michigan.
Unfortunate for the Ravens. Yeah. Unfortunate for John Harbaugh. Back to Jim Harbaugh's team. Back to our own torn ACL with Ronnie Bell. He was our most experienced wide receiver. The next most experienced wide receiver is Cornelius Johnson, who's played in basically just a COVID shortened season, only had 20 catches. It's tough. It really sucks because I thought Ronnie was going to have a really big year. I thought this might be a year where he could maybe enter some draft conversations, some later round draft conversations. He'll probably be back next year. I'll assume he'll get a medical red shirt or at least another year of eligibility, but it hurts when we've got a quarterback who I don't think is extremely talented with a bunch of wide receivers who aren't very experienced. It's a tough combo to then go in and play a Pac-12 team in Washington. Fortunately, Washington doesn't look as good as maybe we once thought because they are coming off a very bad loss to FCS Montana over the weekend, where they only scored 7 points in the entire game and scored it in the first drive. So they went basically 50 minutes of scoreless football against an FCS team as a ranked Power 5 team. That's Washington and Michigan are the only ranked Power 5 teams to ever lose to FCS teams, and Michigan was when they lost to App State. So it's a very eerie kind of parallel. It's an eerie kind of parallel because Michigan lost to App State. Then we had to play a really good Oregon team the next week with Dennis Dixon and got our doors blown off. Washington loses to an FCS Montana team. Now they have to come to Michigan and play a Big Ten team that hopefully will blow their doors off. I'm hoping we don't overlook Washington because they just lost, but it's going to come down to our defense because what happened with Washington was they scored on their first drive. Montana made an adjustment and Washington could not score the rest of the game. And that's a bad sign if it's an FCS team. We should be able to do that. But like I said, we're breaking in a new defensive coordinator. So I'm excited to see how that works. We're facing one of our former wide receivers in Giles Jackson. He transferred to Washington, so that makes it a little bit more fun. I'm expecting Michigan to win now. I think last week if you would have asked me, I would have said I'm expecting Washington to win, but I think I'm expecting Michigan to win now. It'll be a close game under the lights. It'll be on ABC. You can catch us there, and hopefully you'll see me out in the stands going crazy for Michigan. We'll move on to the NFL as our teams get officially underway on Sunday. How you feeling about your Titans this week?
So if you're watching this on YouTube, Dylan's probably thinking this just like all of you are. Why is he wearing sunglasses? I'll tell you why. Because the future of the Titans is so daggum bright that I have to put them on. I dim it. I am so daggum excited for the NFL season to start. And this week 1 matchup with the Arizona Cardinals that the Titans have is very, very exciting because the Cardinals are a team that I really like. And it showed in our NFL power rankings. I ranked them pretty high. I think the Titans and Cardinals are 2 teams that are kind of comparable in the NFC and AFC. They're 2 teams that made a lot of big moves in the offseason, brought in established names to kind of help units that needed help. They brought in J.J. Watt. Titans bring in Julio. And Cardinals also brought in A.J. Green, another big splash of wide receiver for Arizona. I think it's 2 teams that are good. They made big moves, like I said, in the offseason. They also had really good drafts. I like the moves Arizona made, and I've harped on this a lot, but I really, really, really love the Rondale Moore pick for Arizona. He's a Kentucky guy. From Louisville, Trinity High School, then going to Purdue, playing for another Kentucky guy in Jeff Brom. Tore it up at Purdue. I imagine every Big Ten fan does not like hearing the name of Rondale Moore because he was awesome. I think he's going to be really good in the NFL too. I really have faith he will. But it's a shame he has to start his career week 1 against the Tennessee Titans because I don't see any way Mike Vrabel and the Titans are losing that game. I just really don't. There's so much hype. They all just got cleared off the COVID list. I think everybody's good to go as far as I know. But yeah, I think I think there's going to be a lot of fun in Nashville this weekend. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. I don't think either Cliff Kingsbury or Mike Vrabel is going to be really concerned about how many points are on the board, because I think there's going to be a lot of them, because Kyler Murray's explosive. That entire offense is explosive. Derrick Henry, I don't think he really cares who's in front of him. He's gonna get his yards. I imagine he's gonna score. I have full faith in that. And then Julio and AJ and ASAP Ferk, I talked about him earlier. I'm so excited. Chester Rogers had a big preseason. The young defense guys, I can't wait. Cannot wait to watch it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Titans are gonna be 1-0, or they'll be 0-1 and all look stupid. And I should have hyped up the Cardinals this whole time. I don't know. We'll find out. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Now, going from the Titans, let's hear about your Detroit Lions.
Yeah, a little less excited to talk about my Detroit Lions this week, but I'm very happy I didn't ask about the sunglasses and let that come out naturally, because it was a lot better that way. The Detroit Lions get their season started, and I talked about it when we previewed the Detroit Lions. This start of the season sucks. We start with the 49ers at home, then we go on the road to Green Bay, and then we come back home just to play the Baltimore Ravens. So I think that's a quick 0-3. I don't really need to. I think we're going to lose to the 49ers. I don't think that's much of a debate. 49ers are a much better football team than we are right now. I'm more just what I'm interested to see in this game. I'm really interested to see what Jared Goff looks like as the Lions quarterback. It's been a long time since I've seen anyone other than Matthew Stafford take snaps as our quarterback. So I'm just interested to see how that looks with a different guy at quarterback. I think, maybe some people have written off Jared Goff a little bit early in his career. Something we've said about Sam Darnold. It's different because the Rams were really good at the time that they're giving up on Goff, so it makes a little bit more sense. But I'm excited to see. It's going to be interesting, and I'm hoping DeAndre Swift has a real bounce back year. I'm hoping he becomes the Lions, future, core player that they can build around, because I thought he was awesome at Georgia. I thought whatever NFL team was going to have a steal when they got him, and it almost kind of disappointed me when we got him, because I knew we were going to be bad when we had him. But I'm really hoping he works out, because we didn't have much success with Kerryon Johnson out of Auburn. So I'm hoping the second SEC running back we take has a little bit more success for us. But I'm just, I'm excited for NFL in general. I'm excited for the football season to get underway tonight with Tampa and Dallas. All right, it is finally time for us to wrap up with our college football picks of the week. Wisconsin both let us down last week, but Dylan's Georgia pick gave him a 5-1 record over my 4-2 record on the year. This week, we each picked a game for us to pick, as well as having our colleague Colby pick the third game for us. So Dylan picked the Iowa State matchup. I picked the Ohio State-Oregon game, and Colby had us pick between Western Kentucky and Army. So we were going to start with Colby's game, WKU versus Army. How do you feel about this game, Dylan?
I'm conflicted because I'm from West Kentucky. This is where I live, where I planted my roots, as they say. Born in Paducah, one of the farthest west parts of Kentucky. But my brother and grandfather, both part of the Army. So I've always kind of rooted for Army. I've always kind of rooted for WKU. So it makes it tough. I think I'm going to go with WKU solely because I can't remember their quarterback's name. I really hope you have it wrote down. If not, they have a transfer quarterback who is awesome. I cannot think of his name to save my life. He's awesome. And he had a big week last week. I want to say he threw like 4 touchdowns. I'm not positive, but he had a really big week. I'm going to go with WKU because I really want him to be the real deal and have another big week. And when WKU is really good at football, it's a lot of fun. And so I'm going to go with the Hilltoppers. I think it's Bailey something. I don't know.
Yeah, a quick fact check is Bailey Zapp is the transfer quarterback for WKU this year.
He's
under third-year coach Tyson Helton.
Tyson Helton from Tennessee.
Yeah, that's
got
where
connections to this WKU team. Yeah, I reckon I'm gonna go with WKU. I want him to keep up his good play and keep showing out, because when WKU's good, it's fun, and it's fun to root for him, even though WKU and Murray kind of a rivalry in basketball, but WKU's kind of stepped it up in football. So I'll go with the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, I can't remember when it was when WKU made the jump to FBS, but I remember just when it happened because I was playing the NCAA football games, and I remember, there's a new Western Kentucky team. This is pretty cool. So I've always been kind of a distant fan of them. I've just kind of watched them since that happened, and I know they've been really good over the past few years. They've not many teams have made that jump from FCS to FBS and then been really good right after it. I think only them and really App State have been, comparable in that realm. So I know WKU is really good, but I think, Army is just a really, really tough team to face, no matter who you are. They gave Michigan a run for their money a couple years ago. They gave Oklahoma a run for their money a few years ago, and it's just because that triple option offense is so hard to defend unless you are the most disciplined team. And if you aren't, they'll beat you up because they're going to rush for 300, 400 yards, and their defense is solid. They held Georgia State to under 200 yards on the defensive side of the ball this week. So, Georgia State's a little bit worse than WKU, but I think Army's a really good team. So, relatively a really good team. So, I'm going to go with Army this week in that game. We will move on to the battle in Iowa. Who do you like between the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones?
I think I'm going to switch my pick from the last game. So I'm starting to think about it. It's a home game for Army. I was telling Dylan before this, I took a nap before we started the show. Woke up at like 5 a.m. this morning, and I ended up taking a nap. So when I didn't have a whole lot of time to process this game, and that was kind of our idea with getting a third person to pick a game, is we kind of got to go on instinct. It's a home game from Army, and it's on 9/11. It just seems right. You got to go with Army. I think that's the pick. I think Western Kentucky's a really fun team, but like you said, Army's been really tough. Home game for them. 9/11. I think that's as much as I Zap, he's a fun quarterback. He has 7 touchdowns in his debut for WKU last week. I'm gonna go with the tough and gritty Army team. I don't know. That's a tough game to pick. I think it's gonna be a really good game. But Iowa State now. So we both went Army. I'm gonna go Iowa State. Who, when we talked about the Big 12, when we previewed it, it's probably been a month ago now. Probably it's been a few weeks. We both said Iowa State. That's the team, other than Oklahoma, obviously. That's the team we got to watch, and I think that remains true this weekend. I think they pass a big test against Iowa. Iowa's a pretty good team out of the Big Ten, and I think they're going to beat their in-state rivals and add to that resume. And they keep doing the thing, and they have a good team. We talked about it. I think Iowa State's got a good squad. They're gonna beat their in-state rivals and keep steaming, and we just wait for that matchup with Oklahoma later in the year.
Mm-hmm. We were both singing the praises of Iowa State in our Big 12 preview, and I don't think either of us said much about Iowa this year. Maybe just a little bit in passing. I know I said I thought Indiana was going to be really good this year, and then Iowa torched them to start the year. I was really impressed by that, and so much so, I'm actually taking Iowa to upset their rivals, Iowa State, to start the year 2-0. I think, if this is another one where if you asked me last week, I would say Iowa State in a heartbeat. I didn't think Iowa was going to be that good this year, but they were really impressive against Indiana. It's at Iowa State, but I think they go into their rivals building, get an upset win, bring one home for the Big Ten for us. And then finally, the Pac-12 Big Ten matchup between the Ducks and the Bucks. Dylan, who you got between Ohio State and Oregon?
I'm going with the Buckeyes. Like we said with Iowa State, we really hyped up Iowa State, and I'm going to stick with them. We both really hyped up Ohio State as well, and I really like Ohio State. I'm not crazy about Oregon. I think Oregon's got a good team. That defense is good, but Kayvon Thibodeau is kind of like, we don't know what's going on with him. He left the game last week. But Ohio State, man, you get Chris Olave going. Good luck, Oregon. That Ohio State's really, really good. I think they're going to get a nice resume builder early in the season and get a win against Oregon on Saturday.
Yeah, this hurts me even more than having Chris Olave as one of my Heisman favorites, because Oregon when Michigan was down, I kind of adopted Oregon as my second college team. So I'm always rooting for them to do well. I always want to see them do well, and I'm always following them. And I know they have a good team this year, but with Kayvon Thibodeau's status up in the air, like you said, it's just too easy for the Ohio State offense on this one. I like the Bucks over the Ducks. But I would be fine if I was wrong on this one. This would be the one this week. If I was wrong, I'd be not too upset. All right, that is going to do it for us from here at the Dylan and Dylan Show. Dylan, do you have any final thoughts before we get going?
Yeah, my picks, I'm not confident about any of them, I'll be honest. The Army, WKU, I'm back and forth. Iowa did look really good. And Ohio State's probably the most confident I am. But like you said, if Oregon beats them, no sweat off my back. I'm really, really looking forward to this weekend. Like I've said throughout the whole show, I'm excited to get to Cincinnati tomorrow. And then on Saturday, go watch Preston and my Murray State Racers go to battle with Cincinnati. And then Sunday, maybe go to the Bengals-Vikings game. But if not, just a day full of football. I'm also really excited to watch the Subway Series this weekend. I've kind of talked about it throughout the show. It's 20-year anniversary of 9/11, and the Mets and Yankees are playing this weekend in New York. They're going to wear the first responder hats like they have in the past. I think that's really, really cool. That Subway Series is something really special. Just as an outsider who's never really cared about the Yankees or Mets, I always kind of tune into it because New York's just a special sports place. And watching them go to battle and just the fans they don't like each other, but at the end of the day, they're all New Yorkers. It's really, really neat. I love that. It's one of the great things about baseball. Everybody wants to beat the Yankees, so they kind of get behind the Mets. It's a cool thing. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Yep, it's going to be a fun weekend all around. Really excited from all of it, football, baseball, and all of the above. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week to the show. Quick reminder where you can find us. You can find the show's social media pages on Twitter and Instagram at Dylan Dylan Show. You can find Tunnel Vision Sports on Twitter and Instagram, and TikTok at _TV Sports, Facebook and LinkedIn at Tunnel Vision Sports, and online at tvsportsmag.com. Dylan, you have one more thing before we go?
The St. Louis Cardinals just beat the Los Angeles Dodgers 2-1. Alex Reyes got the win in a twist. Wow, Giovanni Gallegos got the save. The Cardinals beat the Dodgers for the second day in a row, split the 4-game series. If you would have told me that on Tuesday, I would have called you crazy. This weekend's trending in the right direction. I'm feeling good.
All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening this week. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy some football, and we will see you back here next week. We will see you then. See you later.